Good morning, wherever you're watching us from. This is Business Morning. I'm Ladi Williams.
Good morning. I'm Mini John Mekwa. Welcome, and thank you so much for joining us. Well, let's start with some things going on in the world of business. 20% of the full-time workforce in Nigeria lost employment during the COVID-19 pandemic last year, and that's according to a new report by the United Nations Development Program, the UNDP Nigeria, and the National Bureau of Statistics. The report shows that the impact of COVID-19 on business enterprises also highlights the significant decline in revenue faced by enterprises and establishments across the country as a result of the pandemic. 81% of enterprises interviewed experienced a decline in revenue, and 73% stated that they face liquidity challenges due to secondary impacts of COVID-19 in 2020. The median loss in revenue reported remained at 44% in comparison to 2019.
And close to 60% of enterprises surveyed experienced an increase in operational costs, with the price of raw materials and logistics being the top two contributors to the increase. Other operational challenges included access to credit and capital, high expenditure on utilities, and a lack of an adequate social safety net, especially for informal enterprises. In addition, the report shows that 1 in 3 business enterprises surveyed indicated that they know of businesses that have permanently closed due to operational challenges resulting from the pandemic. The Statistician General of the Federation, Dr. Simon Harry, highlighted the importance of the survey results, saying that as the economy begins to show signs of gradual growth, this report contains important information that can guide policymakers in their interventions to mitigate the negative socioeconomic impacts of COVID-19 in the country. This is quite, it paints a picture of, you know, some what's actually happening, realities right now. A lot of people have lost their jobs. Some have had to, you know, work from home, you know, and
working from home also costs a lot.
It costs a lot, yeah.
Some employers were not able to keep up with payments, they slashed salaries. And when you talk about the travel and tourism industry, I remember then
hit the most,
yes, because even up till now, I mean, thank God the US just opened up the restrictions or reduced the restriction for fully vaccinated people.
Exactly.
But even
we still have the vaccine issues.
Exactly.
The vaccinated against the unvaccinated.
Well, I remember what some people say, but I mean it's the reality of our time. Exactly. And even though this is set in last year, it is very much a reality today. Businesses are still struggling. Operational costs are
really
even
higher
now. I mean, we're talking of the price of gas, of energy.
And diesel. You see, price of diesel is actually up at this point. So imagine a lot of businesses that actually run on diesel at this time. So the cost just keeps going up. Anyway.
So, Nine Payment Service Bank, a registered Nigerian digital bank providing unique banking services to the underbanked and unbanked, has partnered with Flutterwave, an African-based fintech company, to provide seamless financial services to its teeming customers. At an event to mark the milestone with the signing of a memorandum of understanding, the Chief Executive Officer of Nine Payment Service Bank says that both partners are creating the opportunity to drive financial inclusion through their platforms by bringing to fore the innovative products. Leveraging on strategic partnerships for financial inclusion of the unbanked and underbanked is the drive behind this initiative. Nine Payment Service Bank, a fully digital Nigerian bank, and Flutterwave, an African-based fintech company, are at the table in a groundbreaking union.
The opportunity to contribute towards creating seamless financial services and driving financial innovation. So we are delighted to be partnering with Africa's leading payment technology company, Flutterwave, and we believe that this will be the beginning of more to come.
The goal is the same. How do we leverage our infrastructure, our collective technology together for financial inclusion to penetrate across everywhere in Nigeria today? And we're glad we have such a partner in IPSB. We look forward to launching amazing new products with IPSB and obviously achieving that goal.
To cement the union, both parties put pen to paper. No partnership comes without trust. 9PSB and Flutterwave say they are on the same page.
They started first, right? And for us, you know, having a partner who understands the terrain very well is very important, right? In Florida, we will say payment is partnership. These are another expression of that from what we do.
We are actually giving one entry point to our customers, agents, and partners, and enabling them to enjoy all the products and services that Flutterwave brings to the table.
Nine Payment Service Bank, established about a year ago, operates as a fully digital bank, offering seamless online and offline digital banking experience, and says it's willing to push boundaries in this partnership with Flutterwave as it seeks to enrich the digital transaction experience of customers. Let's see what's going on in the global oil space. Prices rose today as analysts pointed to signs of United States supply tightness, ending days of losses as global markets remain haunted by potential impact on China's economy of a crisis at heavily indebted property group China. Evergrande is really affecting a lot of markets in different companies for some days since last week. Well, Brent crude gained 52 cents, which is 0.7%, to stop at $74.44 a barrel. The contract for West Texas Intermediate, which expires later on today, was up 61 cents at $70.90 a barrel. It went down 2.3% in the previous session. Global utilities are switching to fuel oil due to rising gas and coal prices and lingering outages from the Gulf of Mexico after Hurricane Ida that imply less supply is available. Investors across financial assets have been rocked by the fallout from heavily indebted Evergrande and the threats of a wider market shakeout. Well, we'll talk about the details from this and a whole lot more. We hear about the oil, gas prices going up, energy prices going up, and a whole lot of things. Evergrande is a major factor now in the world affecting markets. Well, to talk about this, we have Adeshola Sumoni joining us from Reading in the United Kingdom. He's a research analyst with financial derivatives company. Good to speak with you, Adeshola. Good morning.
Good morning, Amy. Good to have you. Thank you for having me on the show.
Yeah, just before we delve into the arrange, what's going on with Evergrande is affecting everywhere except Nigeria, that is, or maybe it's also affecting Nigeria.
I think what is happening is because this is Evergrande is a strategically important company in China. And they are, as you said, they are highly indebted. And now it seems as if they're going to default on some of their debt payments, and the Chinese government is not going to intervene. That's the vibe that the market is getting right now. And that is spooking investors, and that is, sending them a risk-averse sentiment across all the markets, both the financial markets, the commodities markets. Is sending a risk-off sentiment, and that is having a knock-on effect on many things that we will talk about later in the day.
But it seems oil prices are kind of like recovering this morning. See, Brent at $74.74. Like the impact is not that much in the oil market.
Well, I think that the factors that are supporting Brent at this moment are higher than the factors that are weighing down on Brent. For instance, on factors weighing on Brent, we said there's a risk-off sentiment or a risk-averse sentiment, which is moving investors away from risky assets towards safer assets, and is strengthening the US dollar. So usually, when the US dollar strengthens against a basket of other currencies, it makes dollar-denominated commodities more expensive to holders of other currencies. So that weighed on Brent yesterday. But today we are seeing other factors like you mentioned, the disruptions caused by Hurricane Ida and one other hurricane, I don't remember the name now, as we still have about a quarter of production shut-ins in the Gulf of Mexico. So around like 24-25% of output is still offline, and that is supporting Brent prices. We also have the fact that the United States and United Kingdom have lifted up travel restrictions, so that is going to increase international travel. It's going to increase demand for jet fuel, which is positive for oil prices. In addition to that, we're also seeing OPEC Plus and the International Energy Administration, show that forecast for oil demand, which is positive. They expect, oil demand to significantly, outpace oil supply towards the end, up until the end of the year and early next year. So all of these factors they outweigh the factor that all these factors, supporting prices outweigh the factors that are weighing on oil prices.
And then you also have the U.S. Fed meeting, which is supposed to take place this week also. That's also a factor that what would investors or players in the global oil space, what would they like to hear, from the U.S. Fed?
So at the U.S. at the moment, everyone is looking at the U.S. Fed because at the last meeting in Jackson Hole, the Fed president, Jay Powell, he signaled that, he might make some announcements about tapering the asset purchase program. So I think at the moment, everyone is just looking for clues as to, when the US Fed is going to start tapering or reducing the asset purchase program and by how much. Currently, I think the US Fed purchases about 120 billion worth of assets from commercial banks in the US monthly. So I think the markets, that's what they're looking at. When is this going to stop, and by how much is the Fed going to reduce this asset purchase program? And that is what everyone is looking at now, because that has knock-on effect on many other markets.
All right, back here now, we see Nigeria's oil rig count is up to 11 points from about 4 rigs, while domestic production is up 6%. What is the significance of this, development with our oil rigs actually going up, but still compared to other oil producers, we're still lagging behind?
I mean, so the oil rig count is the measure of the health of the oil and gas industry, right? So with Nigeria's oil rig count going up, it signifies that more companies are drilling oil. So there's a lot of there's more explorative activity, and that's likely to increase Nigeria's oil production. And that's significant because in July, when OPEC Plus agreed to increase their production quotas, Nigeria's production quota was increased from 1.4 million barrels per day to 1.8 million barrels per day. However, Nigeria has struggled to actually increase its production. Like you mentioned, last month, Nigeria's production was about 1.2 million barrels per day. So with this lower oil production, Nigeria is not fully taking advantage of the relatively higher oil price environment. So with this higher oil rig count, I think it's positive. It means that more oil production is going to come on stream, and that would increase Nigeria's exports and also Nigeria's benefits from the higher oil environment.
All right. Okay,
well, I'm just curious. You're in the UK. We've been talking to our correspondent in the UK, and she's been telling us how expensive it's become when you talk about energy, gas, the price of gas and paying for energy, and it's really getting cold there. Share with us your experience first, and then tell us how this is going to, or this can affect global recovery. We're still trying to recover from the pandemic, and now we have this issue with the gas hike in price.
Okay, let me give you my own experience. So this year alone, my electricity bill has increased 2 times. And it's going to increase again in October, right? And what is the reason? So gas the gas is usually used to, generate electricity, because the UK and European countries are trying to move away from fossil fuels. They're trying to move away from coal and other, dirty sources of energy towards cleaner sources of energy like, water, wind, gas, solar, and the likes. So first and foremost, we've seen the price of natural gas increase sharply to record highs. In the UK, it's increased to record highs. Even in the US, it's increased to like a 7-year high, and it's driven by many factors. One was a prolonged winter. A prolonged winter significantly reduced the stockpiles or the inventory of gas. Usually, and that's usually what's replenished over the summer. But for this year, for some reason, we had low exports from Russia, which is one of the largest producers of natural gas, as well as low exports from Texas. In addition to that, we also have huge demand. Like you said, the world is recovering, schools are resuming, everything, people are now moving back to work. So there's huge demand for electricity. So that is also affecting the price of gas. Now, how does this affect the recovery? So with higher gas prices, it translates to higher electricity prices. Like I mentioned, my own personal electricity bill has increased twice this year already. And because the electricity bill is kind of like a necessity, it is effectively a tax on household income, on discretionary household income. So with higher electricity bills, household energy, let me start again, please. With higher electricity bills, it reduces discretionary income for the household, which reduces their spending power, and that has a knock-on effect on businesses, revenues, and things like that. So that will also affect the global recovery. In addition to that, higher electricity bill also affects the cost of production for goods, which may then be passed on to the final consumer. So overall, I think it's going to have a knock-on effect on spending power of individuals, households, and firms, and that's going to kind of constrain, the recovery, the economic recovery.
All right, you're talking about moving to cleaner, energy. Now, I see that India, our biggest consumer of our oil and buyer, is actually investing heavily right now in alternative, cleaner energy. It doesn't look good for Nigeria.
Sorry about that. It doesn't look good. No, and we've been having this discussion since, and unfortunately, we find ourselves in the same situation of being overtly dependent on oil. I mean, I know this switch to cleaner energy is not going to happen overnight. It's going to take a couple of years, 10, 15 years. I mean, we see countries having like 2030, 2050 targets to reach zero energy, zero, what's the word now? CO2 emissions. So it's gradual, but Nigeria also should focus on, properly diversifying its economy, because the world is moving fast. And if Nigeria does not move along to, diversify its economy and look for other stronger sources of export revenue, a time will come where the oil will be worth way less than it is now, and Nigeria is going to suffer for it if we do not make the big changes now. Like here, you see electric cars everywhere. It's becoming huge. You see a lot of cars powered by natural gas, buses powered by natural gas. We are seeing a gradual shift. I mean, it's not going to happen overnight. It's going to be gradual, but I think Nigeria also needs to move with the times. If not, we'll be left behind.
We'll not be left behind. We'll certainly work on it. Well, take us through the developments in the commodities market.
Okay, thank you. So for the domestic commodities market, it is mixed, really. So we've seen the prices of many commodities remain flat. We've seen price of beans remain flat at 40,000 naira, rice at 27,000 naira. We've seen price of a 50 kg bag of cement remain flat at 4,000 naira. Pepper also flat at 30,000 naira. For import-dependent commodities, or commodities that have import content, we are seeing a pass-through effect of the exchange rate pressures on their prices. For instance, if you look at the price of flour is up 28% to 21,000 naira, and semolina is also up 13.6% to 5,000 naira. We also see the price of sugar up 20.8% to 22,950 naira. And this is simply because of the pass-through effect of the currency pressures. Now, for commodities that we grow in the country that are perishable commodities like tomatoes, yam, and the likes, we are seeing the price of them. We are seeing their prices decline due to seasonality, due to harvest season. I've seen the price of tomatoes, of a 50 kg basket of tomatoes, down 23% to 27,000 naira, and a medium-sized tuber of new yam also down 33% to 1,000 naira.
All right, Adeshola, thank you so much for giving us updates from the commodities market and, of course, the conversation around power and gas. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you for having me. Bye-bye.
Bye. So we'll take a break now. After that, we still have our eyes on E-Naira. Yesterday, we spoke to the regulator. Today, we'll speak with the president on fintechs. So we'll see a different perspective to us. So join us after the break. It's Business Morning on Channels Television.
All right, now to our next conversation. Yesterday, we spoke to the regulator, CBN, on the planned launch of E-Naira, which should be accessible from October the 1st. Today, we'll be talking to Adebajomo, president of Fintech Nigeria, to react to some of the ideas which the CBN is working with. Great to have you on the program. Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so the E-Naira, should be accessed from the 1st of October, and Nigerians will be able to download the app and create their wallet. How do you see this working?
The E-Naira is a fantastic development. It shows the metamorphosis of money, how money is changing fast. After all, we're in the fourth industrial revolution. One of the key traits of the fourth industrial revolution is digitalization. Everybody's a digital business, and everywhere you turn in the world, virtually all the central banks are actually doing something or already piloting a CBDC, a central bank digital currency, so to speak, really. So the CBN, as you probably heard, have a sandbox. Many banks and financial institutions have been are connecting to that, testing, using their mobile and internet banking apps. The whole process runs using a centralized approach. Basically, there are a few APIs, application programming interfaces, which allow you to make calls, service calls, a deposit and a withdrawal calls with documentation. So it's all going pretty well, certainly for those who've actually connected to it really. And there's still a bit of work to be done in that respect. But one more street, sorry, please go on.
No, you can carry on.
One more street digital currencies with both optimism and humility. The motivations for governments and central banks is very clear. There's the fear of losing control. The work of central banks is to harness the banking system to amplify monetary policy. And if payments, deposits, loans are to migrate from banks into privately run digital realms, then you can see how the central banks will struggle. But then unsupervised private networks cannot also be the way to go in terms of what we're seeing in development. So it's that balance really, where the motivation is the promise of a better financial system, and money provides a real store of value rather than speculative value. So all in all, a very positive development.
All right, but do you see the CBDCs, having, the cryptocurrencies have a decentralized, nature to them? Do you see, the CBDCs having some kind of decentralization to it at some point?
That's a very interesting question. And you touch on the current design, at least as we understand it, of the current approach by the central bank, which is a centralized approach, really. You can have a semi-decentralized approach, and you can have a fully decentralized system. Most pundits would probably argue that a decentralized system is perhaps a far more robust, transparent, scalable manner to go than a fully centralized system. In fact, a fully centralized system can just be trivialized. Why use a blockchain? Why use the DLT technology if you're going to be fully centralized? The fully centralized system means one person can change the rules, replay transactions and all of those kind of stuff. In a decentralized system, the rules are different. The whole network is a lot more robust. You can track transactions all the way down. And participation is actually a lot more broader and robust as well, as opposed to centralizing everything inside one point. But the jury's out. When you look at various jurisdictions, it's about making sure that people understand this. Like I said earlier on, you've got to treat it with both optimism and humility. We don't know what we don't know. And what we have to do is to just make sure that we understand the implications of each model before we go down one road.
So one of the reactions to the E-Naira after the announcement by the central bank has been their engagements of Bit Inc. When we have a lot of brains back here in Nigeria. You are the president of Fintech. Yesterday we had a representative of the central bank on the show. We asked him, and he said it's because they wanted to engage a company that has the track record. We believe in Nigeria. Why do you think that the CBN did not engage member of your association? We have enough brains here.
The CBN is is entitled to its own decision. And I think, to be quite fair, they probably responded in a press release at the time. And of course, as you mentioned yesterday, our energies is actually now to focus our attention on the other critical requirements that are required to build a CBDC. I mean, we must not lose this opportunity. It's not just about building a CBDC. We're building a digital economy where Nigeria has to be right at the center of a thriving powerhouse of digital economies in Africa, basically. So if we lose the trick is we focus so much on the central bank CBDCs. What we all must be doing, including the central bank, is to say, what are the other opportunities available where Nigerian companies, Nigerian players can actually participate, develop a stronger ecosystem, and create jobs in Nigeria and position Nigeria as the digital powerhouse for Africa. And they're quite still a lot. Like I said, really, we all tested the sandbox. Where do you locate the CBDC? Is it going to be somewhere in the cloud, or is it going to be physically in the country? There are security implications depending on where you choose to locate your CBDC. In case you have a quarrel with some parts of the world and the cloud is cut off, for example. There are new opportunities around KYC validations, where we have strong systems in the country already. There's security. Programmable money, which is what CBDC is, offers huge opportunities for data analytics, mining, all sorts of R&D. So these are all ecosystems that I believe are still up for grabs. And with the right mind, with the right motivation, the central bank, together with Fintech Nigeria and every other participant, can actually build and support a thriving Nigerian ecosystem that not just supports Nigeria's digital thrust, but also efforts within Africa and the rest of the world.
So can you locate some value chain opportunities with this, CBDCs?
Yeah. So if you look at the value chain, really, there will be clearly, there are processes, there will be winners. There will be people who are actually going to find it disruptive, basically, because if you look at it, really, the CBDC is about disruption of money, as we know it. And that's why even the central banks have to be thinking very carefully about how this thing is going to impact that disruption. Opportunities will abound. One area is clearly remittances. If you look at the way remittances is done, it offers opportunity to make it a lot more seamless. It allows a level of control for the central bank in terms of managing the exchange rate as well. So remittances would be clearly one area. Financial inclusion is a phenomenal area. That's the one that is the biggest use case that is being trotted all over the place, really. But when you think of financial inclusion, it means that you can get that assistance exactly to where it is, and you can actually channel it the way you want. So, for example, if you give social support and you say, you know what, you can only buy food with this and not beer. Digital money will let you do that. You can actually program how that money is used as a way, really, and target the support, the aid. I mean, people talk about fraud and all of those. So it offers opportunities and control to prevent fraud. Fraud will always happen, whether it's physical money or whatever. But more importantly, it's the talent pool around the ecosystem that if we build this properly, we can really develop a strong talent pool. We can use it to develop the economy and also export and share within the Africa region as well in terms of cross-border payments and cross-border currencies as well.
Well, I really like the example you gave, about, for instance, they want to give, maybe use the E-Naira and say, okay, you can only use this to buy food, you can't use it to buy alcohol, because it just brings back the picture of when the government was trying to reach, a lot of Nigerians to buffer the effects of COVID-19. So, I mean, it can really serve. But then one question that comes out of that is also that this is a highly technological platform. And when you talk about financial inclusion and you talk of the spread of technology or of data or even network, then it becomes a challenge. So how do we hope that this E-Naira can accelerate financial inclusion, since it's so demanding when it comes to technology, and this is not something that is common to every Nigerian?
Yeah, you know, the technology complexities can be and will be disguised from the end users. It has to be. You know, we all drive cars and don't really worry about the engine, just start it. We use cards, you know, but if you look at the Nigerian architecture for payments of cards, POS, you know, it's going to blow your mind. You shouldn't have to, but, you know, that's what it is. But the end user is just a simple card you put in your transaction. That is the way the end user will, if you like, consume the service. The user experience will be pretty simple. You will just go on your mobile app, yeah, so with your bank, and you'll just be able to buy E-Naira into an account or wallet, or transfer E-Naira. Or you can do it via internet banking, USSD. You know, it offers opportunities for people to actually provide cards for E-Naira as well. So, you know, rather than writing checks, paying online with a card, you know, you could be using the central bank's chip plumbing, you know, to just go through. So it's really not going to be too daunting, quite frankly, for the end user. Financial inclusion will carry many forms and many shapes. And because you're now able to do certain things in a manner that is transparent. So if you like, the brains behind all of these technology will be almost shielded from the community. You know, and that's why you know, when you take the arguments back to centralized, semi-decentralized, or decentralized approach, then you start saying, you know what, perhaps a decentralized approach allows a much more robust basis to have, if you like, regulated entities or pre-vetted entities to manage and control how you manage, you know, and you set the rules and you change the rules around those currency, around the central bank digital currency. I mean, it's one that has to be treated delicately, is what I would say.
Right, but how is your association, you know, deepening capacities in blockchain, you know, so that, you know, the CBN can bring more business to, you know, fintech companies?
I mean, the single biggest challenge that we have right now, I guess globally, quite frankly, not even in Nigeria, is that of talent. You know, and the reason behind that is that this is probably the first time in any revolution, you know, in the fourth industrial revolution going to the fifth, but it's the first time in any industrial revolution where the whole world is actually experiencing that revolution at about the same time. You know, if you think through the telegraph, the steam engine, the mass production, you see it start in one part of the world. Then they perfect the art over 50 years, 100 years, then they bring it back down. Then that window is shortening. Right now, digitalization is happening everywhere at the same time. And the best people to solve their problems locally are the locals. So here are Nigerians solving their own problems locally. So we can't wait for people all in other places of the world to come and solve these problems. We can collaborate, we can use their skill set and all of those stuff, really. And that's a real challenge for all of us, bearing in mind the speed that we're competing in. But for the association, really, you know, we're actually supporting in several ways. You know, one is around the capital market, where we've supported the Securities and Exchange Commission in developing a capital market fintech roadmap. You know, we've just recently come together, you know, our members, 250 strong firms, you know, we've set the industry standard for lenders using digital platforms. Our members have provided advice to both the CBN and a number of other regulators and government bodies on blockchain, you know, and how to go about, you know, the implementation. But more excitingly is that we have a program called the DigiStart, where we're actually working to train about 1 million students coming out of Nigerian universities, starting with the University of Nigeria, Nsukka. Because what you find is that what you learn in university may not be actually what the employers want to use. So employers want people who can hit the ground running, really. And we, you know, the DigiSport program is to create that blend or that transition where the thought courses and the academic background can then be transited into practical work experience, which employers can take and use. So that's something that's going. But the good news as well is that quite a number of companies are doing something similar. So we just have to encourage the whole ecosystem. We have to encourage firms, organizations to invest in and train in digital skills, and even support and participate in our digital program as well.
All right, Mr. Bajimo, it's all about getting, you know, 21st century skills at this point. Thank you so much. We'll have to leave it there now. Mr. Ade Bajomo is the president of Fintech Nigeria, and I'll be counting down to the E-Naira. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Cheers.
All right, now for an opening call to the market, we have Will Ibong. How's it going, Will?
Good morning, laddie. Before we count down to the E-Naira, it was a bearish start to the week for the stock market. The activities resumed negatively, and the major reason is because of sell-offs in Tier 1 banks. We saw GT Bull and Zenith banks. Investors taking profit in that counter, and in the all-share index ended the session 0.1% lower at 38,906.42 points, and about 20 billion naira was knocked off the market cap. Consequently, the month-to-date and the year-to-date losses increased to 0.8% and 3.4% respectively. We saw, however, the total volume of trades increased by 23.1% to 190.96 million units and valued at 2.35 billion naira. And all traded in 3,462 deals. EcoCore was the most traded stock by volume at 40 million units, while MTN led the top traded stocks by value at 752.67 million naira. We move over to the unlisted market, where the sluggishness continues, and we saw that it went down 0.49% at 732.10 units and traded in the market value was at 636.32 billion naira. And over to the fixed income market, where the trading in Treasury bond secondary market ended on a bullish note as the average yield fell by 4 basis points to 11.2%. Buy interest continued for the 30-year paper. We saw an uptick for that instrument in last week's trading session. And we shouldn't forget that there's a bond auction scheduled on Wednesday, that's tomorrow, where the DMO is expected to offer 150 billion naira across the 2028, the 2036, and the 2050 maturities. But to talk more about it, we have Ajibola Aero Phillips, head of fixed FX trading at FBN Quest Merchant Bank. Good morning, Ajibola.
Good morning, Will. Thanks for having me. How are you doing?
It's great to have you, Ajibola. Ajibola, the DMO is set to offer 150 billion naira at the bond auction tomorrow. What are your expectations?
A whole lot of it is going to depend. Well, I mean, market is looking towards the Eurobond auction that's going to take place today for market direction with respect to tomorrow's auction. As you're aware, the federal government is going to raise some funds in the international capital markets through Eurobonds. We have about 3 maturities on offer, and government is looking to raise between $3 billion and up the way to $6.2 billion. So depending on what happens with respect to that, how much we're able to raise, and that gives the market a direction in terms of, what DMO is going to raise, how much it's going to raise at the local market. 150 billion is on offer. But if the bond auction becomes really, really successful, they don't really have to depend on the local capital markets to raise that and, take home additional debt in the local instrument. So by the time the auction kicks off today between, 12 and 2 p.m. At the close of the Eurobond auction, market would exactly get a direction with respect to the bond issuance that's taking place tomorrow for the local currency.
Okay, speaking of which, some analysts are saying that they expect investors to trade cautiously because of the relatively low liquidity system. Do you share this opinion, and do you think that we're going to see a downtrend in yields, especially for the bond market?
It's certainly. That's one, because of the low liquidity in the system generally. We're not all expect that there'll be a downward trend. I mean, if you look at the previous auction, for instance, the long end went from 13.25 to 12.8. We expect that might happen again. There might be a downward trend in the yield, especially if the Eurobond becomes really, really successful. I mean, at some point, that was what kickstarted markets in terms of the downward trend that we saw in the fixed income market generally. Once the date for the Eurobond auction was moved forward, it was scheduled to take place sometime in October, but it was brought forward again to take place, to start today, just giving the market a signal that, government was willing and ready to take on more debt in the international capital markets as against the local currency market.
We're seeing a bit of a bullish trend in the treasury bill market. Can you tell us what's happening in that space?
Pretty much same thing. Liquidity is low. Just feeding into the same sentiment. that's been going around in the market, and people just picking up whatever instruments that is on offer at the moment. That's exactly what is just driving the whole sentiment in the fixed income market space right now.
Thank you so much, Ajibola. And that's Ajibola Aero Phillips, head of FX trading at FBN Quest Merchant Bank. So over to you, Ladi.
All right, Will, thanks for the update. We'll take a break now. When we come back, we head on to London. Just stay with us. This is Business Morning.
You're welcome back. You're still watching Business Morning. Well, for a second time, we're heading to UK. This time, we're going to our studios with Juliana. Hello, Juliana. Good morning.
Good morning, Annie.
Yeah, so one of the things making the rounds, of course, is the hike in energy and gas prices. Meanwhile, in the UK, the energy regulator is saying that price cap will stay. This sounds good for consumers, but what about dealers?
Yeah, gosh, that's a good question. Crisis talks remain on the table between the government and industry bosses to try and sort out the soaring gas prices. Yesterday, Kwasi Kwarteng, the business secretary, and the boss of the Ofgem regulator had a unified front. And the government did tell ministers that they will not be raising the ceiling price for gas in the UK. It was already increased a couple of months ago. So from next month, anybody who pays for energy and gas in the UK and you're on a direct debit, meaning money comes out of your bank every single month, you will see that your bills have risen by about £136 a year. Of course, alongside the pandemic, lots of families in the UK are struggling to make ends meet. And Boris Johnson's government want to put the consumer first. So they said they will not be bailing out these gas firms. We've already been discussing this extensively, but gas prices here in the UK have risen 250% since January, a further 70% since August. We've got lots of gas and energy firms, probably about 70, and some say if they don't get the help they need, it will be dwindled down to about 10 by the end of the week. So yes, the conversations are ongoing, but one good thing for consumers is that gas will still be supplied and the benchmark won't be risen any higher.
And I think your voice has finally been heard. The United States is easing its coronavirus travel restrictions, reopening to passengers from the UK, EU, and other nations. So it's great news.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a massive story, a massive boost to the beleaguered aviation industry as soon as US President Joe Biden announced this new measure yesterday, just before the kicking off of the 76th UN General Assembly in New York. Virgin Atlantic, that heavily rely on that transatlantic route between JFK and Heathrow, they reported that bookings had increased by 91% on that route. BA, they also said that they saw a 700% surge in the amount of people looking for that route. I could have even been one of them, I've got to admit, Innie. So it is good news for the aviation industry. Even this was obviously reflected on the stock market. IAG, which is the parent owner of BA, their shares surged about 10.9% yesterday. Even in Paris, Air France shares surged 6.7%. We saw this in even places that don't really fly to America, including EasyJet. So it's good news. So from November, if you are double jabbed, you can now fly into America, which, of course, the vast majority of the world couldn't do unless they spent over 14 days outside of their destination of choice. So, yeah, great news.
Great news. And I'm sure in a very short while, we'll be talking about aviation revenues and all that, apart from the stocks, which you have talked about anyway. So we'll talk to you later today at 1:30 during Business Incorporated. Juliana.
Thanks, Innie.
So let's move to the crypto market now with Ladi. It was a red Monday.
Yep.
What
and
do we
it's
have
a red
today?
Tuesday. We
Oh,
still
no.
have the
Bad
Evergrande
news.
effect. You know, all
the
major
Evergrande
traditional.
gets to the crypto too.
Oh, yes. You know, crypto is a very risky asset. So, you know, risky assets got hit hard, you know, with this whole Evergrande issue. We've seen Bitcoin break so much support at this point. Just a couple of altcoins in the green this morning. The market cap is sitting pretty below the 2 trillion psychological mark. That's down 6%. 24-hour volume, $150.13 billion. Volume is up 59% this morning. Bitcoin dominance still inching up there at 42.46%. Price of Bitcoin at 8 a.m. this morning, 42,991. It's broken the 45,000 support and the 43,000 support at this point. It's down 5%, and the 24-hour volume traded $46.68 billion. So traders are not finding it funny right now. Ethereum now almost inching below the $3,000 mark. It's down 4%. 24-hour volume traded in Ethereum this morning, $28.62 billion. Look at the top also market cap. No coin is spared there. You see BNB still way below the $400 mark. It's down 6%. Cardano looking at $2.11. That's down 2%. And XRP below the $1 mark, down 4.27%. So you see the crypto market is not smiling, but we have some top gainers here. We have Misigo, one of the oldies in the crypto market, is up 21.67%, and CeeLo there following it with up 17%. So it's not the usual double-digit gains we see in the market, because right now Bitcoin is very volatile. All right, let's bring in Rume Ofi now, digital market analyst. Hello, Rume. Great to have you.
Hello, everybody. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning, Rume. Well, it looks like the dip keeps dipping at this point. El Salvador has been buying the dip. I don't know if they're buying this dip right now. What's going on in the market?
All right. Evergreen, second largest property developer in China. And, you know, they are really going through some very difficult times in debt, and amounting to about 300 billion, you know. So that sent shockwave to the entire market. If you notice, yesterday we saw Nasdaq down, S&P 500 down. So crypto will not be exempted, because at some point there is this news around E-Naira, the largest stablecoin, is involved with Evergreen. You know, so it's a situation whereby everyone is running excess data. You know, at some point, institutional investors from Asia are more. So we want to see that all of that can shake more of the crypto market, because Bitcoin actually went down by 9% or thereabouts, and sweep about 250 billion in value from the market. So it only means that rumor often controls the crowd. So it is very good to follow where the waves are going. About last night, I observed that when the market got to about 40K, a good amount of volume came in, and it actually held that position for a long time to this morning. So traders need to be very careful and follow where the whales are going. So it's just for you to, if possible, if you are so scared, leave the market at some point, because the rumor will make everyone scared at some point. You know, so when the market is balanced again, you just go in and ride your profits up, so that at least you can smile when you see it. But when everywhere is doing at the end of the day.
Right. And Rume, it seems this could be the wrong time to start running into stable coins. How should retail investors be trading at this point?
You know, I look at stable coins as because that's what it is. You know, the opportunities are not there. They are just the ones which you want to the US dollar most especially. So most times when people say, oh, what I believe stablecoin is doing is just to help hold your assets at that point. But also the opportunity, you will miss out on it. You know, so but the retail investors should always follow where the money is. That is, when the market is getting involved in things like this, you just have to at some point go down, because nobody wants to see their money what is going down, because it comes with a lot of emotions, you know. So you just have to stay back a bit, watch the market, hold support. Then when the volume comes in, you follow it up, and I think it will make you have a lot of value for your money at the end of the day.
All right, so it's a red market. What altcoins are you watching at this point?
So for me, I'm looking at the DeFi protocols. I'm looking at the DeFi ecosystem. I'm very, very heavy on the Solana, because it has a lot. The ecosystem is quite large, as well as Cosmos, which has a token as Atom, and Polkadot is also there. You know, so after all of this, I know it's going to take a short while, because on Thursday I heard that there's going to be the debt review is going to come up. So there could be some new waves in the market. You know, this is a quite new market, so anything goes for now. But when we get better, a lot of these things will be absorbed, I believe.
Right. All right, Rume, thank you so much. Always great to talk to you.
Thank you very much, Nadia.
All right, let's look at the top 5 losers there. We have Atom leading that count, is down 13% at $34.81. Purpose down 13%. Near Protocol, $7.58, down 12%. And we have Decred there, DCR, $118 down. So we're seeing double digits losses across the board. So we don't know where to put our money at this point.
Well, I don't know about that, because I always hear you guys talk about buying the dip, and I think this is the dip. Isn't this a good time
especially
to buy?
when the dip keeps dipping, you don't know.
Well, it's not a financial advice, but I mean, this is what you guys keep saying.
We need to look for that safe haven asset at this
Safe
point.
haven asset. Or go to the stable coins.
Right. But it's all about timing, though.
Okay. All right. We'll keep looking at the time. I'll keep our fingers crossed. All right. Well, that's it on the program. Thank you so much for joining us on Business Morning today. We'll be back again tomorrow, God willing. I'm E-Naira. But do remember, 1:30 we'll be back with Business Incorporated for updates from the world of business.
And I'm Ladi Williams. Thank you for watching.